Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Mompulu Kileruma Mohobe. Welcome to the second installment of Mohobe's Nuggets of Wisdom. As you know, this podcast was inspired by entrepreneurs who continually approached me every time I speak, or every time I finish speaking, they come to me and say, what books do you recommend? What do you think we can read to get ourselves on that success or entrepreneurship path? I've got a list of 10 books that I think are essential, and some of these books I have here in front of me, and I'll run through them quickly and explain why the books are impactful and were useful to me. The first book was a book by a Mason, Enemy Called Average. The whole point of this book is that you should celebrate your uniqueness. You should celebrate the fact that you are different from anybody else on the planet. There have been about 7 or 8 billion people currently on the planet, and you are different from all of them, and you are unique. And in all of history, no one has been exactly identical to you. And the message there is that, and it's written, the book is written by a Christian pastor, and he uses scripture to illustrate the importance of uniqueness, and he shows the uniqueness in various heroes in the Bible. The other book that I think can help you in your entrepreneurial journey, especially in the context of Botswana. I'm shooting this from Gaborone, Botswana, and I think we should always be contextual and look at our environment and see how we can impact it. That's why I recommend the book by David Nzemele Mahang called The Magic of Perseverance. The beautiful thing about this book is that I've lived it. When I say I've lived it, I've seen him create Pakalane from scratch, and I've seen him in Minchin and Kelly, where I worked as a young lawyer, and he is my personal mentor, and I've seen him grow from virtually nothing. He used to be just a lawyer like I was at some point, and he was a politician, and then he became a businessman, and now he's a business and property mogul. So I recommend that book because he also talks about things like Tele. He talks about the fights he's had with the Botswana government and how he overcame bureaucracy and so on and so forth. The third book that I strongly recommend is The Richest Man in Babylon. This book is written in simplistic terms, and before I forget, the book by Mahan, The Magic of Perseverance. It's right here. It's a very thick book. You can maybe focus on the business side because he spends a lot of time talking in the book about politics, but there's a part where he discusses business and business only. And by the way, he hasn't paid me to promote his book, but I think it can be of great help to you as an entrepreneur. The third book I recommend, The Richest Man in Babylon. The only thing about that book that's different is that it's written in the style of the King James Version. Thus saith the Lord, thou art. He uses that kind of language, which is Shakespearean. But apart from that, the book is very powerful, it's very impactful, and it's written in story format, and you can easily absorb the wisdom of that book. And then the fourth book that I strongly recommend, which has impacted my life directly, and I mentioned this in a lot of my talks, is a book called Cashflow Quadrant by a gentleman called Robert Kiyosaki. The beautiful thing about that book is it talks directly about paradigm shifting, and its emphasis is on moving from the left side of the quadrant to the right side of the quadrant. The left side is about E and S. I think E stands for employee, S stands for self-employed. The right side, he talks about becoming a business owner and then becoming an investor. As an entrepreneur, you should immediately from day one have the mindset of moving yourself to the right side of the quadrant. And that book is an eye-opener in many ways. The other book, number 5, that I strongly recommend is a thick book written by a gentleman called Canfield. I think his first name is Jack Canfield. And he talks of success principles. That's the title of the book. And he methodically lays it out in detail, what it takes to be successful. He focuses on psychological matters. He talks about actual bread and butter issues, and he breaks it down. And you find that a lot of the things that he deals with are what happens between your ears in terms of your mindset, in terms of your orientation, in terms of your set of beliefs, and he deals with that in detail, and you immediately see what limiting beliefs you have that may have prevented you from getting where you want to get in terms of your success journey. The other book, number 6, is Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. That one is a classic. There's a gentleman on YouTube called Bob Proctor, and he talks about how this book has impacted his life. He talks about how he reads this book on a daily basis. Indeed, there are a lot of beautiful chapters. One of the chapters which is a bit awkward in that book that you may want to read a little bit talks about sexual transmutation. And that is a very unusual concept because it links sexual behavior to business success. And he does it very cleverly and from the point of view of how many businesses and how many businessmen have fallen as a result of sexual immorality. You see that the importance of that chapter as well as that book. Now, next is the book of Proverbs. In fact, in order of importance, this book of Proverbs should have come first. The book of Proverbs is written by King Solomon, the richest and wealthiest man that ever lived. The book is right in the middle of the Bible. The fact that it's in the Bible does not mean that it's not a business book. It is a business book in every respect. That book, along with the book of Ecclesiastes, in my opinion, these are classics that can help any businessman get from point A to point B. The other book that I recommend strongly is Maximum Achievement by Brian Tracy. I have a copy of this book here, and this book has personally impacted my life. It really caused a big, a change in the trajectory of my life, in the trajectory of my business life. I forgot to show you Think and Grow Rich. These two books, these are powerful books in every respect. And if you have time, please purchase those books. The other book that I recommend for you very strongly that you must read if you get a chance is Who Moved My Cheese? That book is written by Dr. Johnson. It's written in a very mild way because he talks about mice and he talks about how these mice live in a labyrinth, in a maze, and they manage to survive in that labyrinth. And when you read that book, you can immediately relate some of that mice to some of the people you know, and you can see yourself in some of the characters that are talked about. But the good thing about that book is that its impact on you as you read it is subtle. It's not a book that comes directly at you, but it subtly massages your consciousness and helps you get forward, move forward in life. There's also a classic book, number 10, by a gentleman called Anthony Robbins. Sometimes other people call him Tony Robbins, but it's a beautiful book. It's called Awaken the Giant Within. I think it goes back to the early 90s when personal development was not really a popular thing, but the book and what it says is still relevant to us today. And then I have a bonus book by Brian Tracy. The book is called Goals. And the beautiful thing about that book is that it talks about the obvious thing that will get you from point A to point B, which is goals. If you don't set goals, if you don't have a system by which you attack and tackle those goals, you have no prospects of success at all. And my advice to you is that find that book and include it in your personal development library as one of the important information source for success in personal development. That's my top 10 list of books that I strongly recommend, plus that bonus that I number 11 from Brian Tracy. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. I hope this podcast has been useful to you, and I hope as and when you get more content, you will subscribe to this channel and you will like whatever it is that we are sharing with you. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.